Like, I want people here, like, creating this vibe and the energy and moving together.
In 2019, Nicolina Leone decided to start her first business, a first-of-its-kind boxing experience called The Rig.
Everyone knows how it is. It's like, just like a little bit further, like a little bit longer.
From securing essential funding to overseeing every detail of build-out and operations, discover how she conquered the challenges that stood in her way and emerged as a master of the entrepreneurial game. Nicolina, I'm so excited to chat with you today. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So tell me more about The Rig.
So like 4 years ago now, when I moved back, so I guess it starts even before that, actually. I moved to Australia for like a year and a half, working in fitness full time. And that was like the dream, really. A lot of the time you don't know what you want to do for the rest of your life until you like get to be lucky enough to do it. So I knew that when I moved back to Canada, let's see if I can open a gym.
And were you teaching boxing in Australia?
I was teaching spin and Ligree. I wanted to open a Ligree studio, but when I moved back, a studio had already opened that had the machines that I would have wanted to get, and they were like down the street from where I thought I would open the gym. So instead I just started teaching for them and like kind of put this on the back burner. And then it got to the point where I was teaching in a few different places, and like, you know how it is working for someone else. You're like, I would do it this way, or I don't like this, or whatever, but it's their business at the end of the day, so you don't get to say much. So that I was starting to feel like maybe it's time for me to come back to that thought of opening my own business. So like 2019, and I tried drop boxing in Toronto, and it was so much fun, and we didn't have anything like it here. So I reached out to the owner of drop boxing in Toronto and asked her if she would be interested in letting me open one in Ottawa.
More like a franchise style.
I didn't even understand what franchising meant. I was just like, can I open a gym and own it like partly or fully or whatever? Like, can I use your model? And it wasn't in her plan to do that. Sat with her for like 30 minutes, an hour, asked a bunch of questions, like took that home, incorporated the next month. And like, I've just always looked at problems and like hard things in life as just like one step at a time. And, you know, there's a like long period where you can still back out. It's only when you start spending like thousands of dollars that you're like, maybe it's a bit too late to back out now. So incorporating, I was just like, okay, one little step at a time. I wanted to open specifically in the back of the business that my dad was already running, Leone Service Center, which is a garage in Hintonburg, which used to run out of like two big garages similar to like we're sitting in right now. But then like he'd been running the business at this point for like 37 years and was renting the back part out to somebody else. And then the timing was just like very serendipitous. Like they moved out, he was going to start looking for a new tenant. And I was like, hey, like, this is what I'm thinking. And my dad, being like old school Italian mentality, was like probably like dirty garage, like doesn't make sense. And she was like, let me help you find a different place to open this gym. And I was like, no, like you don't get it. Like this is the vibe. This is what we're going to do. The reason I moved back from Australia is that he got sick and died a month later. And the back stayed empty for a while. And my mom was running the business. And then when I started telling her about it more, in 2019, she was like, okay, well, if you're going to do this, like, let's see the business plan. Like, she was supportive, and she got, like, more and more supportive as time went on. And now she's, like, the only reason that we have to really...
To have someone in your corner like that is incredibly huge. And it does seem like there are a few factors at play that kind of led to this even happening.
Yeah.
Your family being, it seems quite entrepreneurial, but also the timing as well.
Yeah, it honestly, like, kind of couldn't have been better. Like, if we didn't have the space, I don't know if I would have done it. Like, that's a huge, like, now starting in a space that, like, my family doesn't own, I was like, this is so much harder. And so if I didn't have the space, I don't know if I would have done it.
So tell me more about The Rig, the name, the logo.
I knew I wanted something with an R in it. And it's like a silly reason why, but like I watch The Office like a lot, and there's an episode where Dwight's talking about R being like a very strong sounding word. Quite a few gyms that I liked had an R in them, like Reform, Iron North, like Drop Boxing, Rumble Boxing, like there's R's. I also wanted to have an association to the garage in some way. And rig came up, like any hoist or machinery in a garage can be referred to as like, throw it up on the rig. Weight racks are often referred to as rigs. And then there was the nice tie into Australia because slang for like body, or someone like a body that works out is like rib, like working like a rib, nice rib, whatever. And for the logo, so a lot of gyms that have Aqua Bay's logo ends up being this like the teardrop shape of the actual Aqua Bay. So the teardrop was easy, the R was easy, and then we have the two lines at the top of the logo, an homage to the Sunny's logo, which is super random, but Sunny's used to be like a gas station, and we used to have gas at Leone service center. So like we were at Sunny's gas station, and there's these two stripes. So I had told Kovar Designs, who did our logo, like, these are the elements, this is the vibe, this is the feel, and he did a great job. So
how has the reception been? Did you do thorough competitive analysis before opening?
I even knew about the market that I was getting into. I knew Hindenburg pretty well in general, just for like living there and my dad's business being there for as long as I was alive. But like learning about the population and like doing a bit more research into what gyms were in the area and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, it's like, this is where the space is that we want to use. So this is why we're going to open here.
What's the timeline? When did this actually open?
Okay, so we incorporated like the last month of 2019. And so that was the winter right before pandemic started. And then we opened the doors. What year is this? 2023. So we opened the doors in 2021. We really wanted to wait until we didn't think we'd have to shut down. And like, I want people here, like creating this vibe and the energy and moving together.
So between the 2019 and 2021, was there any point you were like, this isn't happening, maybe this is a sign that I shouldn't be doing this?
I'm sure if I had like a bigger like weight on my shoulders as far as the actual space and like paying rent, and if there was, then I probably would have like really considered pulling the plug. Like, thank goodness we held on to it. And like, I was like, are people going to want to come back? Like, people had started buying Hellentons and things at home. And I just like really had faith. I was like,
I mean, kudos to you, sticking to your vision. And
always
it's easy to waver in that, especially when it's so uncertain. And so what other big costs were associated with opening up that first studio? And did you have a savings to draw from?
No. So we initially thought at that studio we would build something like we had at Southpaw, the big iron thing here. This thing cost like just over 30 grand. And at the time when we had it quoted for Hindenburg, it was just over 20, and it was a smaller version. And I was like, well, we don't have that. And then my mason, he was like, what if we did columns? And so that ended up being closer to 10,000. Also, there's like a secondary wall that we built in Hindenburg because we were worried about like the integrity of the building, being able to just support all these bags on it. Like, we redid the bathroom, the equipment. We got 17 bags. They're about $200 each. The dumbbells were expensive. The flooring is actually quite expensive for the space that we had. I think it was probably like $7,000. All in, we were definitely around 100 grand to fit out the whole place. You have a line of credit on a condo that my mom was generous enough to let me use instead of like getting even more of a loan, which I also got from the bank. That was such a pain in the butt. And if anyone watching this is like trying to open a small business, like, come ask me, I'll help you, because navigating the small business loan with the bank is annoying as heck. They want so much paperwork, which like I understand. But then you think like you're going to get, we were trying to get about 70 grand from them. And you think that you're going to get 70 grand in a bank account and then be able to just like spend it on what you need. And that's not how it works. You get approved for this amount. You get a receipt. You have to submit the receipt. It takes them 2 to 3 days. If you didn't do the paperwork properly, you don't get that invoice paid. You submit again. It takes another 2 to 3 days. So like, I'm trying to pay contractors and like everything. And it was not a great experience. It's done. And then when we were doing this, I was like, I'm not doing that again. It took so much longer.
And when did you decide to open a second location?
I had started thinking about it after the first. I always knew it was like a goal I thought was maybe a bit lofty, but I was just like, in the first 2 years of opening the Rib, I'd like to have a second, sometime between the first and the second year, like hitting the 1 year mark and the 2 year birthday. And I kind of had started looking and like,
why did you have that thought?
I just was like, you don't want to wait too long that you become, I wanted to use the momentum of opening. And I just was like, we're here. Like, it was just maybe, I don't know. I honestly don't know. I was just like, I don't want to lose the momentum of opening. I want to stay relevant, open while we're relevant. I don't want to wait forever. It'll be 5, 6, 7 years down the line. You still only have the one studio. And then it's like, do you even expand at that point? There's so many other things. So at this time, my very good friend and one of my coaches, Nora, and I had also started talking about opening another gym called Studio Twitch, where we do Liquory and HIIT. And so it was kind of like, okay, do we do this rave or do we do Studio Twitch? And so I was just looking for places. I was like, whichever one we find is the one we're going to do, and the other one will wait. And then we found Studio Twitch first. I was like, cool, this is like great.
The fully separate project.
Fully separate business, like incorporated, whatever, owned 50-50 with Nora. The rig I own 100% by myself. And then, like, literally the same week, Paul, the guy from Intel Audiovisual, calls me and he's like, I know where you're going to open the next rig. And it was this place. I came to see it and I was like, it is exactly what we're looking for. It's a huge space. It's a bigger space. The rent is very good. There's an upstairs studio that we haven't even done anything with.
Fully vacant?
Fully vacant. Like, it's a part of our, like, it's all ours. We just haven't done anything upstairs yet. And the landlord was going to let us do a year lease to see how we go, which is like impossible to get in commercial.
That's unheard of.
It's normally like 5 years, maybe 10 or even 15. So I was just like, okay, absolute worst case scenario. It's like we're paying really expensive storage for the next year. If it doesn't work out, it's fine. So I signed the lease and then started with Southpaw at the same time as Studio Twitch. And it's probably like, I'm not going to say it was a bad decision, but it hasn't been an easy last like 6 months.
Did you initially expect that the success of the first location would translate into the second location?
100%. I was like, it's going to be great. Like, it's going to be so easy. Hintonburg was so easy.
If Hintonburg was a smash hit right off the bat.
Yeah. And I just thought that was normal. I was like, oh, okay. I don't know. I feel complaining in businesses. Why doesn't everyone do it? Like, seriously, such an idiot. And then, so like, had all these classes with schedule here, like, ready to go. And then I'm like starting to see the numbers booking in, and it was nothing like Hintonburg. I'm like, okay, this isn't good. So like started cutting classes and like finding a different like pattern here. Like, it's just like, it was a huge learning curve. Yeah, no, this was like a lot rougher for sure. Just it cost more than I thought it was going to cost to redo, which is like, I think always the case for people. We didn't get as many people in the door in the beginning as I thought we would.
And were you just funding this location off of the profits of the first location?
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it was like, Hindenburg was doing so well. Like, I could have never, like, we paid off our loans, like, really quickly, and then just, like, started saving money. So there was money in the bank. I definitely did something that, you know, like, I don't recommend, and, like, my mom will probably hate if she ever watches this. But, like, I didn't have all the money I needed to do it, but I had faith that we would make the money we needed to do it. So I was just like, let's just start and see what happens. And like, there were definitely some tight deadlines with like the check for this thing being paid and like scrounging for sure to get that done. But it got done, and we're finally like, I'm trying to make myself feel better about it, honestly, because sometimes I think, imagine if you hadn't opened this gym and how like easy your life would be, and you'd be just sailing through with Studio Twitch and the one rig. I'm like, no, it's like good to go through this adversity. But it's just that like, I didn't have to, like, I did a business plan for the first rig, and I like did the projections for the finances, and they make you do this when you're getting a loan, but it's like, when do you think you'll be profitable? And it's like, how do you even answer that question? But there is like this little like thing you do monthly, how many memberships you'll sell. You have to show when you think it'll drop, show when you think it'll sell. And we were just like profitable almost immediately. We were making it up, but in Hindenburg, we were profitable almost immediately. So it was like ahead of the projections that I had made. I did the exact same thing for here with just like different months of opening and stuff. And this is where I started to be like, okay, it's actually like what I had to try and plan for. So we're finally at a position where we are starting to become profitable here
After 6 months.
After 6 months. Very scary. But yeah, it's interesting to see the other side, and I'm like just reminding myself that I needed to learn this.
Entrepreneurs are a special breed. We're a natural risk taker.
I guess, yeah.
And you also have to follow your instinct in a lot of ways. After the 6 months, it's starting to finally come into flow.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a function of you responding to how the market has responded, or do you think just generally the demand has grown?
A bit of both, mostly the demand growing. Like, I think it took longer for people to find out we were here than I thought it would. But also like trying to figure out ways to make things work in this neighborhood. At the end of the day, it really does come down to like the community of that space. Our neighbors next door are moving out, and I'm really hoping that like somehow a cafe or a brewery open up. Like, that would be incredible. A place to start bringing this together. And, you know, we could be the first place in an area starting to bring that out. It's just a matter of like having the like stamina to be on your own for a long time. That's why we really want to put some yoga upstairs to like add another element to the space. That's another like big bonus for the break in Hinchinburg is like very early on we partnered with Soul Speak Yoga. We have a joint membership. We have a lot of the same people going back and forth. The coaches go to both gyms. So like just having an ally, I didn't appreciate that enough, and then came out here alone and I was like, okay, the skills isn't there. And if I'm alone, then I'm sure the community feels kind of alone too. But
And that's the thing with physical spaces. Every market and every neighborhood that you're opening is slightly different. And I think getting that word out is always going to be so important. And having that anchor is always going to be so important. And so in terms of getting people into the space, you said social media, you have a website. What type of marketing have you been doing? And what's worked and what hasn't worked?
Only Instagram, and it worked really well for us in Hinchinburg, and I think it works pretty well for us here. Like, it's a pretty like photogenic place, so people like to post pictures. We talked about doing like boosted posts or ads. We never ended up doing it.
So you mentioned working in other studios for so many years of your life. So did you already know, like from the tech systems to the scheduling and all that, how to do that ahead of time, or has it just been learning along the way?
Definitely like honing those skills, but I did know like a lot. I've been learning along for the last year, so that was like that's something I can say I was like prepared to do. Not so much like the building of the actual space. I hated that part, and I don't know anything about like electrical or plumbing or whatever. But I was like, I'm ready to run this business as far as schedules, selling memberships, mind, body, all these things.
When you think about how you spend your days and your weeks, are there parts where you really, really love and parts where you're like, I really, really don't want to do this?
For sure. I know when I'm tired of teaching or how long week or whatever, then my class isn't as good, which isn't fair. But then when I can come in like every other day, I know I'm teaching like a fantastic class and they're having a great time. The admin stuff, I actually like, obviously not this past week with the migration, but generally I like enjoy like helping people with their schedules and their questions and things like that. I still work part-time for the government, and like that's something that I know is going to need to go in the near future because it's all getting to be too much. You know, like everyone knows how it is. It's like just like a little bit further and like a little bit longer, and then it'll all fall into place and it'll be fine. And I'll like do emails in the morning and I'll do this and then I'll have lunch and I'll do it. And like this beautiful schedule is going to somehow appear for me one day. Yeah, life's too short. Like I've been thinking about it a lot lately, and I'm just like, life is too short. And if you have the ability, if you're lucky enough to have the ability to just do what you love and not make yourself feel like you're spreading yourself too thin, then like you should probably do it.
It's also putting a bet on yourself and thinking, right now you have the track record to say like, no, this is actually working. People love doing that. So I think it's really powerful to make that stuff. And I think that it's nice to always think that, like you said, things fall into place and then it'd be great. And I'm going to work that way and everything was predictable, but things aren't.
Yeah.
And I think being able to look back years from now and say, I was able to apply myself and not burn myself by trying to do too much, I think will be really, really
that's the thing. Like these are hopefully the best years of our lives, and to spend them like working like crazy just seems wrong and almost like a disservice to like the life that my parents set up for me.
What have you learned about yourself from opening a business and managing it?
That I'm like pretty good at it, but that I also have control issues, because as soon as Nora and I had a business together, I learned that I had to like listen to someone else, and I don't have to do that at the rig. So it's just like, and it was hard. Like it was really hard for me. And even at the rig, sometimes when I'm like upset with how something was handled or whatever. Like no one's ever doing it maliciously. But I know I get upset when things don't go the way I want them to go.
And when you do get frustrated with the business, what is your outlet?
It should be something physical, I just did my yoga teacher training and like learned a little bit more about like not even just doing yoga, but like breath work and stuff. So like that's actually like taking deep breaths. Like people say it all the time, and I would never do it before, but now I'm like, okay, yeah, this makes me feel better. The best thing that I'm also very grateful to do is like stepping away, going on a little trip, a little vacation or whatever. I come back like such a better person. And it's like almost like to the point where if you know you need to go, it's too late.
I'm excited to punch some bags.
Yeah.
But before I let you go, I do have a few speed round questions for you. What is the worst advice you got when you first started the rig?
Oh my God. Like almost any advice that came from a man, like no offense to, it's like, this is a general, but like, I hate getting feedback. I hate getting advice unless I ask for it. Don't give it to me. I don't want it. And who would give me advice every time I didn't ask? A man. So whatever you said to whatever man it was, any of them truly like not good advice. I can do it without you.
Secondly, what is the most important routine or habit that you have that helps you stay focused and motivated?
It would actually be like, this is probably super annoying to hear, but like exercising pretty regularly, because the difference in how I feel like energy wise and productivity wise and just like happiness wise is drastic. And like I was saying earlier, you fall out of it and then it's really hard to get back into it because you're so busy and you're so tired and these things. But I'm just like not as good of a version of myself if I'm not being active and getting into movement. Not even every day, like not even for that long, like just doing something for 10 minutes. And I know everyone says that and nobody believes them that's true. But for me anyways, it's true. So
it resonates with me. That totally
movement, big time.
Definitely. Speaking of movement, let's switch to boxing.
Okay.
What's your favorite boxing combo?
Oh, my favorite boxing combo is 1-2-3-2, jab, cross, foot, cross. It's like the first combination my coach ever taught me. And he told me that like, you know, boxers, they work with one combination or a new move or a new sequence for a long time before they'll even implement it in a fight. And it's just like the one that we always went back to. And I'm just like, if somebody attacks me out of the street, like they're getting a jab, cross, hook, cross. Like it's what'll come out if I'm hungry, if I'm tired, if I'm hungover, if I need to box. Like 1-2-3-2 is.
We'll make a gif out of you.
Yeah.
Well, Nicolina, thank you so much. This was a lot of fun.
Yeah, this was fun. Thank you so much, Amy.